welcome to Stack Dice, where I talk about all my favorite nerd stuff. After the session last time, the players leveled up to level 3, and I told them they should prepare all the character details for level 3 in the break we took between the sessions. So of course they did the only logical thing, which is nothing, and we spent the first hour of the next session leveling up them all, because I was the only one with a player's handbook.
Let their blood rain from the sky!
After that was done, we had a quick rundown of the rules again, mostly regarding spells, and we could start. So when I prepared the table, the first thing I did was try to find a street layout for Barovia, which wasn't as easy because I didn't have as many road pieces as needed to do it fully justice, and I couldn't fill it up with as many houses as I would like to. But in the end, I figured it would be just enough anyway. So I did some minor changes. For instance, I changed the position of the tavern and general store. I just switched them. And of course I invented some houses which aren't really there on the actual map. But in general, I think I got all the details which were important for Barovia right in there. So the elf druid learned the animal form last time. And of course he has to see the animals first before he can change into them. So he printed out some animal miniatures, which I hid in the town of Barovia and the Vistani camp. At the end of the session he has found all of them. Also this time I hid some boxes randomly on the town, so they have more reason to explore them. They did found 3 of the 4 boxes I hid, and I just used the table for general stuff they can find from the player's handbook. Most of the stuff got grabbed by our rogue, Cisse, which did lead to some minor tensions because she did found everything before the other players could, but nothing we couldn't handle. So for general presentation, this time I could use much more of a battle systems terrain, especially for the houses, and it was pretty easy to just fill it up then with some miniatures of the Barovian citizens and threw in some natural terrain. For the Vistani camp, I again used the Kraken beach map. However, I didn't put too much terrain on it, mostly just some tents, and I put a lot of random miniatures in there which looked somewhat colorful, so they looked like Vistani, because I don't have too many fitting Vistani miniatures. Here we have Irina. This is Ismark. Actually both Ismark and Irina were in the wrong scale, but it wasn't too bad, so on the table you hardly did notice the difference. For the Barovian townsfolk I just used any Dark Reaper miniature I could find. And some of these were also used for the Vistani in the camp. For the Priest Donovich, I used the Priest from the Rune Wars miniatures game, and for Sandoru I used the Games Workshop Age of Sigmar miniature for these big ghouls. I know it's not super fitting because he's actually still somewhat human in the original book picture, but I wanted to have him a bit more threatening when the players fight them. This was the miniature I used for the Mad Mary. For Madam Eve I used the original miniature. Also, to have just a bit more color in the Vistani camp, I used this miniature for Colette Dubois from Malifaux. This time I didn't have a very long introduction, I just told them that we were still in the cart, driving to Barovia, and the Vistani just kicked them out in the middle of Barovia and just guided them to their target. As plot hook I used the letter from the mayor of Barovia to protect and help Irina. So the first major quest was to get them to the mayor's house. I already expect them to not go directly there anyway, so of course I walked the exact opposite route and to talk with everyone in the city I created and gather all the side quests they could. First they walked right through to the market, which is not really part of the book story, but I just wanted to have some market, but they couldn't really buy any useful goods there because it was mostly just decoration, and to give them a short insight on some people of the village of Barovia. After they find out some first details about how the people of Barovia behave, they went straight to the church, where they found the priest Donovich and his son Doru. They even went down to the basement to find out what's wrong with Doru, but they decided to help him instead of just killing him. So that was one combat encounter less than I expected, but I guess they do have a new quest now. After that, they wanted to go shopping in the general store, but they quickly figured out that he's just a cutthroat, so they decided not to buy anything there. But they did gather from some other Barovian villagers the information that in Vallaki they would have a better store. So they tried to get entrance into some houses of Barovia, which before we started the session I already rolled the dice to see what is in there, and I could put the correct miniatures in there. Basically, most of them were just normal villagers. There was no surprises from any random attack or empty houses. Next, they went straight to the tavern to get drunk, and there they found Ismark, who told them about Arena and the main quest. So they did decide to help. However, they didn't want to go there straight away because there were still some parts of the city which they haven't explored. So after that, they went to a few other houses, also filled with citizens of Barovia, so they learned a few more details about the country and a tiny bit about Strahd himself. So before they went to the mayor's house, they took a quick detour to the house of the Mad Mary to collect her quest about her daughter, and then finally they figured to go into the mayor's house. In there they found, of course, Arena, as well as the dead mayor, and they quickly decided to help her. And just as Ismark asked them, they wanted to bring her to Vallaki, but Arena demanded that they bury her father first. I did change the story here a bit. In the book clearly it states that the attacks on the house stopped once the mayor died, but since we had no other combat encounters at all, I figured I'd just throw them in here. So they get attacked by a lot of wolves and this beast, for which I just used the vampire spawn stats, even though it's not really fitting. So it was quite a long encounter, but they managed it. They buried the father, and of course during the time on the market of Barovia, they found out about Madam Eva and the Vistani camp at the Zerpool. And before we finished up the session, they had a quick visit there. Due to the time constraints, we had to cut short the session of the Vistani camp a bit, so it wasn't as spectacular and interesting as I hoped, because we rushed right through it. But they did get the future told by Madam Eva. Went on to go to Vallaki. When Ismark told them that the letter wasn't actually from the mayor, but from Strahd himself, they really liked that twist, and now they are aware of who Strahd is. But they don't know all the details about his doings in Barovia just yet. In general, I liked this session a bit more than the first one because it really felt more like what I imagined Dungeons & Dragons to be, which is mostly the exploration part. Because they didn't have the specific plot hook where we had to go to just one location and only had that location available. Of course, I did make that specifically so in the first session. It's because I didn't want them to have any freedom, but this time they did have much more freedom, which I think they enjoyed as well as I did. I was scared of improvisation in the first session, but now I feel I can go much more relaxed into the next session, and of course I already went more relaxed into this session. The players also took some notes because they did get some information from the Barovian citizens, which they wrote down to get them later, because some of them will only become, of course, more important later in the plot. So the way we structured our campaign so far, all the random encounters during travel didn't really work out. So when we traveled from the Village Barovia to the Vistani camp, there were no travel encounters at all, because we just didn't have the time to do any. In the next sessions, the players aim to go to the village of Vallaki as well as the Tsarovich Sea, but we will probably only get them to the village and have first quests in the village. I don't think they will manage to get out of it just yet. I'm not sure if we will do any encounters on the travel there, but since it's far away from the Vistani camp at the Zerpool, I think we have to have at least one combat encounter on the way there. So see you next time.